Welcome everybody. We are back for another episode of Our Roots in Tea. Today is a little special episode. We're gonna do a little different conversation here. We're gonna actually talk a little bit more also about psychology, but the mindset and approach of entrepreneurs and business owners. And we have the perfect candidate, perfect guest here, Travis Rivera. Uh, thank you very much for joining us, Travis.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, because Travis is actually joining us from East Coast, and he is a really busy person. He's got his own business and stuff like that. But just taking some time to join us, it's just such an honor, actually.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, as per usual, we do have a tradition, which is we do drink tea while we discuss these conversations. And Travis, I don't know if he's drinking any tea today, but for us, myself, we'll be trying this tea called Assam tea. It's a black tea, so gives it a little bit of a kick this morning for me, which is good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm actually brewing some coffee.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'll be joining you with a hot coffee beverage.
that's no problem. I actually thought about having coffee, breaking tradition a little bit, but I'll stick with tea for today.
You gotta stick with the tradition.
You gotta stick with the tradition.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess so just to kind of dive right into the conversation, the first question I have for you is, as a business owner yourself, how are you adjusting to this kind of weird pandemic period?
That's a wonderful question. So there's a lot of answers to that, and the interesting thing is that it's actually a very great opportunity for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I can explain that a little bit more, but really, at your core as an entrepreneur, you're a creator. And I know we don't often talk about entrepreneurs as being artists,
right,
in that sense, but it's the same formula where you're bringing together all your skills and all your talents and all your team to create something new and something wonderful, and ideally something that creates value. So when something happens, and it always does,
yeah, of course,
you've got to be able to find a creative solution.
Yeah.
So in that context, crises happen all the time, and the answer is always the same.
Yes.
You gather, you pull your resources, you pull your team together, and you find a creative solution to the problem at hand. Now, what's interesting about COVID is it's something that we all share. It's not unique to one business or another, or even businesses. It's across the board. We're all dealing with this. We're all coping with this. So, number one is safety. How do you cope with COVID in a professional setting? You've got to prioritize safety. And so while my business is roasting coffee, and part of that was so much of that was the product itself, which is the bean, but also we created an experience for our customers. And so I always thought of myself as, yes, I'm in the coffee business, but I'm also in the experience business. I'm creating an experience for anyone that walks into our doors. Well, this year that changed. And instead about creating an experience, the core became creating somewhere that's safe. Somewhere that's safe for your customers, safe for your team, and of course, safe for your product and your company. So I began to look at other businesses and other entrepreneurs, and it's like, and I used to have these conversations. We're not in the X, Y, and Z business.
Yeah.
We are all in the same business, and that business is safety right now. And it's very contrary to what skills we built upon to get to this point.
Yeah.
Because you think about you think about the safety industry, and you think about hospitals and healthcare physicians. You don't think about a cafe or a coffee roastery.
Yeah.
So there's that. So prioritizing safety. is number one, and finding a creative solution to is just part of our toolbox, and that is always present, and COVID is no exception to that.
Wow. So it almost sound like that all of a sudden there's a little bit of a perspective shift, in terms of just learning how to run the operation, running the business in a really different creative manner, which is just, that's crazy how things have changed.
Yeah, I mean, you have a team that now they wear masks,
Yeah,
and you have a team that is shielded, and how do you, I mean, one of the things that we want from a customer, we want three things from customers. Okay, the first thing that we want from a customer is a smile.
of course.
Well, how do you train your team? Your team's been trained to like interact with customers
Yeah,
on a real basic level, which is the human smile,
yeah.
and now your face is covered.
Mm-hmm.
So just like little, I mean, just little at our core, the culture that we had to kind of reevaluate and shift our perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like, we still want that smile from a customer. We can't see it, but we can see it in their eyes. And
Mm.
so these now the cues of conversation have begun to change. And so, I mean, we have to wear masks. So we create masks with our logo and then we sell them. I mean,
Great.
these are the types of things,
Yeah.
these little shifts in, okay, if our behavior is going to change and our patterns are going to change, cool, but how can we make that part of our brand, and how
Yeah.
can we make that part of our team and something that a customer can appreciate? And a math is a very simple way to show that.
Okay. Okay. It will actually follow up question on that is, do you, when you go and interact with your customers now, with all the changes, do you feel like there's a certain type of connection now, like with the customers, like maybe either feeling closer or somehow maybe feeling some sort of appreciation?
What's We are connected. We are connected with our customers in a different way now.
Okay.
So and I don't know. I mean, on a bigger scale, maybe we already have been
Oh,
as a society,
yeah.
because so much of our communication is through social
Yeah.
media, or like you and I are doing now.
Yeah.
So if any, it's kind of pushed us in that direction even further. So now when I look at our customers, I get very few interactions face to face,
Yeah.
but I have so many more interactions on social media. So I take the
Mm,
time to answer every comment, I respond to every question. I do this twice a day now,
mhm.
so that I have a clear understanding of who's on our team, and I really don't see the relationship between us and our customers as, I don't see them as customers. I see them as team members,
Right. Hmm.
and they're champions of our brand.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Yeah.
sharing, they're posting, they're talking about it, and those connections are only strengthened and reinforced
Mm,
since the world has pushed us a little bit further apart.
right. Oh, no, no, that's great. I actually like that perspective, because it's not just about like, oh, okay, you come in, I brew you coffee, you get it, and that's it. It's probably like
Yeah.
something bigger. Maybe a lot of these customers see now like the coffee place to be like maybe their safe haven or something like that, maybe possibly. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's not our story anymore.
yeah.
It might have been our story when we first started and nobody
Mhm.
heard about us or
Mhm.
any of that stuff, but now it's their story, and so it's our team, it's our growing team, and everyone wants to be to to be a part of that,
Yeah.
a part of that success. And so every single customer that purchases something from Black and Brass
Hmm.
is a part of that success, and they own it, and they're proud of it, and they should be,
Yeah.
because any business
Oh yeah.
it's not going to function you know without champions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, just to backtrack just a little bit, for you, since you're doing social media response and posts, maybe about twice a day, like you said, do you do you feel that it's kind of weird now, just having all these interactions online, especially for, as a, coffee owner, where you want to be there, like brewing that perfect cup of coffee, but then now it's like a lot of it is kind of online.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like it's kind of like an existential crisis. When you build something to welcome people, and all of a sudden, you know, those same people are no longer welcome,
Mhm.
for whatever reason. Uh, it's hard. It's not weird so much as just sad.
Mhm.
It's really sad, and um, the wonderful thing about a coffee house is that socialization. It's a
Yeah,
culture where
yeah,
it doesn't matter who you are, what walk of life you come
yeah,
from,
yeah,
what political ideology you carry.
yeah,
You can sit down and you can discuss um, big ideas, or even just hang out with someone who you love, who you haven't seen. And across the board, coffee houses are a place where people can come. And so to destroy that,
yeah,
even for a short amount of time,
yeah.
is for me, it was sad. So the social media aspect of it, no, I love that aspect. I think that's
Mhm.
just another way
Yeah,
to connect, and
right.
I value I value in person
Yeah,
communication and interactions, but I also value
sure.
the these kinds. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. I don't think it's weird so much that communications have changed, but I do think it's sad
Mm.
in the ways that we've lost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
You know,
absolutely agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, because I do drink coffee as well myself too, and for me, you do tend to take these little things for granted, even going to a coffee shop. Um, when it's shut down, you're just thinking like, oh, like my routines change, and then like you just kind of like, oh, you because in your head you always thought it will always be there, but then that now you understand that could be taken away from you pretty easily.
yeah,
So it's like a whole different mindset, which is crazy, whole different perspective.
yeah, yeah. And the cool thing and the challenging thing and the scary thing is that there's no rule book on this.
Mhm.
You know, we all tend to think that since there's so many businesses that exist, like somebody's figured it out,
Mhm.
and that you can share this formula. But the truth is that most people don't. They're they're trying to solve problems that nobody has an answer for.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the basis of a business. You're
Yeah.
solving a problem,
Mhm.
and or you're creating a solution, or you're creating value.
Mhm.
And so uh, it's it's really the perspective is a big part of it, but there's no rule book. You just got to figure it out.
Right.
And so that can, depending on what kind of person you are, that could be really empowering
Mm.
or really frustrating. And you look towards, in this case, the Department of Health. You
Yes.
look towards your local government to
Yeah.
give you some guidance, give you some direction, give you some authority
Mhm.
and some accountability. And what I found is that there is none. That the safety practices that I put in place, um, I went above and beyond to try and maintain the safety and
Yeah.
security of my team. The whole time I'm thinking, well, where's the support?
Mm.
Where, uh, I mean, where are the regulators? Where are the people coming in and saying and enforcing, saying, okay, good, you're wearing masks. I mean, these things, there were none.
Mm.
And so, I mean, you see it, especially here, in our region. You see some businesses don't bother wearing masks, and other businesses, this is a very specific and extreme example, but across the board, this is what I found is that if you want something if you know, instead of asking when is somebody going to do something or when is somebody going to create something, the answer is when are you going to do it? When are you going to create it? What are you going to do to empower your team, to help your team be safe? And you have to figure it out as an owner, as an entrepreneur, because quite frankly, more often than not, nobody's going to tell you what to do or how.
Right. No, that's true. Like you're pretty much you're relying on yourself. I mean, no one, when it comes down to it, no one's really gonna help you as harsh as it sounds, you know.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. It,
It's
it
true.
is. It's very
Like
true.
they'll help you sign the paycheck. They'll tell you all the things that they can
Yeah.
provide to help you in your business. But when push comes to shove, you know, you're the one who's accountable. You're the one who has to make the tough decisions.
Of course.
And so that develops in you a certain resilience
Hmm.
and integrity and stamina to face adversity and the challenges of our day.
And I'm just so fascinated because where are you finding this stamina? Where are you finding this kind of like, passion? It's crazy because I know I'm sure there are a lot of business owners who are just really struggling and trying to overcome frustration, but then you seem to be really booming. I'm just very fascinated by where you even,
Yeah. Thank you. It starts with gratitude.
okay.
So stamina, you know, you've got to keep in context all where you are and everything that you. It's so easy to wake up and forget that, you know.
Oh yeah.
Especially in my case, I mean, 5 years ago I had nothing,
Mm.
nothing, and today I'm going to be on national television. So when I'm faced with crises on a regular
Yeah.
basis, it helps me to be grateful for what I have and what I've achieved. And that allows me to kind of take a heartbeat, think of, you know, I'll give you a perfect example. This morning, our biggest location, we have 3 locations now.
Mhm.
Our biggest one had no water. It froze.
Oh.
We're in single digits here. Okay. So it's 8 degrees
Oh my God.
and our biggest spot doesn't have any water.
That's crazy.
So then today we're going to be on HDTV
Yes.
and our website is down. In fact, our website is down right now. And it's the most important day
Yep.
for online orders ever in the history of the company. I mean, we're going to be
Yep.
broadcasting in front of millions of people. And as of right now, we have no website.
Oh.
So these are very, very stressful,
Yes.
intense problems that I need to solve immediately.
Mm.
And it's very easy to break down. And I mean, I love Neil Gaiman's quote. Neil Gaiman, the author, he says, you know, we're all children in drag, you know, adults. And it's like, man, and this morning it was that child in me wanted to break loose and throw a tantrum. And, you know, I mean, but there's no room for there's no room for immaturity or to let those emotions surface. It's not part of what's going to help us propel and exceed and succeed. And so those qualities develop over small triumphs, you know, something like not having a website at all is a bigger problem than having one that's currently crashed.
Sure.
And every single time you solve a problem, you get a little bit more confident. And you get a little bit more experienced, and so then you can also use your experience to kind of have the stamina that you need. But there are many easy days.
Sure.
And you think, wow, I feel a little guilty. This is too easy. And then you wake up some mornings and everything's hit the fan, and you think, this is why other people aren't doing this.
Right.
It's the amount of stress and pressure.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. our payroll went from one employee,
Mhm.
and I didn't pay myself anything,
Right.
so
Yeah.
virtually zero,
Oh, yeah.
to ballooned into 30, where we've got anywhere. I mean, at the end of December, it was a $17,000 payroll,
Oh, wow.
which is yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Depending on who's watching, they'll be like, "Oh, I wish,"
Yeah.
those peanuts. But going from from having a $0 payroll to a $17,000 payroll, and then you're in January and it snows or the water freezes and you can't get customers through the door, you've got to have emotional stamina to be able to operate within those kind of parameters and those kind of pressures. It's just like Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. It always comes, and when it's here, like, we've got to be prepared.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just like it's long answer to a very simple question. I would say, to build on that stamina, on that grit, on that perseverance, you need gratitude, and you need to have a series of very small victories, to build that confidence within yourself, to really allow yourself the space to appreciate everything that you've done, and have the confidence to know that you're going to succeed. You're going to get through this.
That's great. No, that's great. One, I like the quote that you put out, and two, you're right. Like, small victories, I think they matter really, actually, much more. I think because most people, on average, they always think about the bigger victory. They jump ahead.
Yeah.
And so I always think that's a mistake. But
because you're right.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a real life example. The small victories. I mean, let's say, it's building within yourself a pattern of success.
Yeah.
So if you go to work every day and you do a little bit less every day, when you close, you don't I'm going to use the coffee analogy because that's the business I'm in.
Sure.
You close, you don't clean your brewers one night out of the week. You clean it the other 4 nights, but one night you don't clean it. You don't sweep under the couch one day or 2 days. They're little teeny tiny things. What they are is they're small defeats, and you don't notice it because it's just a little thing day after day after day. But your teammate, your team member who comes in after you the next morning, last week the brewer wasn't cleaned. This week the floor is not being swept. Next week it's something else. And now the gap in their eyes is much more apparent. But in your eyes, it's still just one little thing. And what you're doing is less and less and less and less. So you're actually failing at the baseline. And when you do the base, there's a word for that. It's called C player.
C player. Oh, okay.
So C player. Okay. So if you're doing less than minimum, now you're in the D, you're in the F range. And really, I mean, who wants to be a C player anyway? I mean, you're doing the bare minimum. You're never going to get ahead.
Yeah.
Turn it on its head. Think about the inverse of that. What if every single time you come to work, you do something, just a little thing extra? For you, it's the same philosophy. You're not going to notice it because it's just a little thing, but you start doing it on a regular basis, and then you add a little thing, and you add a little thing, and you add a little thing. Now you're setting up for yourself something that money can't buy, and that is a code of ethics, a code of creating value, a code of doing a little bit more. And that's the type of person that becomes successful. That's the type of person that creates value. So you want to be that person that constantly gets small victories as opposed to small failures. Very few of us win at anything large or fail at anything large.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time it's just like these day-to-day battles. And maybe it means not opening that bag of potato chips today. Right? Maybe it means not spending that $10 bill on a 6-pack. But when you focus on doing a little bit more, you create within yourself a confidence of victory.
Yeah.
So that flash forward, when there is that once in a lifetime big crisis, you've had a whole life of small victories that have built in you the stamina and the confidence to triumph and to succeed.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's great. It's I assume that's how you train your team members too. So like every day you do a little bit extra and think about the other people too. That's
Yeah.
okay, great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, empathy is a big deal. Being part of a team is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in sports, if you're in theater, it's not a one person act.
Yeah.
It's an ensemble, and
Yeah.
the whole team has to be focused on making the goal. But if you've got someone who's letting everybody else pick up the slack, well, ultimately they're only cheating themselves, this individual. And so, and again, inversely, you're preparing your future self to be more adept at killing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually
I
want
mean,
to go
I
ahead.
hate to beat that point home, but it's so important
Sure.
to just keep in context that you don't have to be this fantastically brilliant individual
Yeah.
at all. All you have to do is read 10 pages more today than you did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to turn into a genius overnight, but you're going to be a little bit smarter 10 pages at a time, day by day. Any context you want, whether it's working out, whether it's, building your intellect, whether it's building your brand or your business or your family, in relationships, the same concepts apply. You create small victories on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And you will be so much more advanced and so much further along than your former self, and for anyone, and when you compare it to anyone else who isn't doing those things. And most people are doing the opposite. They're doing a little bit less, and they think they're in the short run they're winning. They're getting out to spend the rest of their evening. They're getting out a little earlier. They're making a little bit more money in the short run, but in the long run, the same people will turn around and scratch their heads and say, I did everything that I was supposed to do. Why am I not further ahead?
Right.
And the reality is, if you did everything that you're supposed to do, you're still just a C player. It's only until you start to do a little bit more that you start working your way up to becoming an A.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the other part of it too is that I think consistency also is also another key point too, because because I'm a victim of it myself, where sometimes you would do a little bit extra, right? But then a lot of times what I see in people is that they sort of, I guess, not follow through. They do it maybe for a couple of days and then they sort of drop off again. So then it comes to me to realize, like, okay, well, like what you said, like a little, like you can do a little bit every day, and then but you have to be consistent though, because if you're not consistent, it's like, well, it's kind of useless. It's almost like you go work out for what, 3 days in a row, and then you start eating potato chips. It doesn't, it doesn't do anything,
Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly right. You got to be consistent. And it's the same with your product. I mean, what would happen if I bought, a less expensive bean because I wanted to save a couple bucks? What would happen if, I messed up a roast and said, let's just mix it in with something else? In the short run, maybe nobody would notice, but you're setting up exactly the pitfall that I'm trying to help people avoid, which is, you set up a pattern of failure. And down the line, you might not notice that one burnt bean in the batch. Down the line, if that becomes a regular practice, the entire quality and the entire integrity of the product you're putting out there is suffered as a result.
Absolutely.
And I've had roasts. I mean, I got distracted. I missed the mark. Ooh. And we're talking about hundreds of dollars down the drain in a second. And when that happens, there's nothing that you can do other than get it gone and start over.
Yeah.
because the taste and the quality will be affected.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, that's where you able to learn from, the mistakes and be like, okay, next time I'll be present and be, paying attention to it. No, absolutely. I got it. Actually, I have a little follow-up question. What kind of a backtracking? Um, how how do you intend to solve this frozen water problem that you have right now in one of
Oh,
your...
it's already solved.
Oh, it's already solved. Okay.
It's
How did
already
you do it?
solved.
How did you do it?
um, I made some phone calls.
Okay.
I know a guy. No, literally, the plumber who like did all the work in there came with a blowtorch
Oh,
and
wow.
just lit up the pipes so that they would thaw. And then
Oh, okay.
now we've got to go back though, and we've got to insulate it a little bit better because it's going to be another really cold night tonight. So the problem for today is solved, but now the problem for tomorrow and next winter is on the forefront of my mind. So how am I going to, and this is what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
okay, something happens, you fix it, but you've got to mitigate that threat from happening
Right.
again.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of your time thinking about, what am I doing right?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? What are the potential pitfalls? And, sometimes something happens like this morning and I didn't see it. I didn't anticipate it coming. Well, shame on me. But tomorrow I'm prepared.
Nice.
You
Very,
know,
very, very good. Because I assume that this stuff happens like every winter, right? Like, because it's cold, so cold over there.
well, it's yes, but it depends. I mean, everything's got to be just right, and
Ah.
we just got rocked with a cold snap last night,
Oh, wow.
and nothing. Just nobody was prepared. So that's
Right.
kind of you know yeah. But yeah, it's winter's a problem. We have it. I
Yeah.
think a lot about like my days in Southern California and thinking about how because every time it snows,
Yeah.
burn, you might as well just like send everyone
Yeah.
home
You
because
send everyone
nobody's
home.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there are other places where you can have every day, all day, and not worry about temperature as a factor. That kind of appeals to me.
Right. Okay. Um, this question I was gonna ask in the beginning, but I like to ask it here just to change up the order a little bit. So why black and brass coffee? I mean, why? Just kind of give me a little bit of backstory.
Sure. Well, um, I knew I had to create an asset. I was working as a carpenter, and I was making the best money that I had ever made in my life as a carpenter. And I knew I didn't have very much finance savvy at all. I didn't have any experience with investing, and I had a pile of money under my mattress, literally, that
Mm,
was making me very uncomfortable, and I knew I had to invest it somewhere.
yeah.
Um, and so I was thinking about buying land, blah 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 blah. But I always loved coffee. I
Mm,
always loved coffee, and it was my dream for a long time to have a cafe. Even before I learned how to roast coffee, I wanted a cafe because I just love it. I grew up I would watch my dad play music at the local Starbucks when I was a kid, and
oh,
you
nice.
know, it just like had a kind of it just meant something to me. And it was so much about the community, and so I knew I couldn't be a carpenter forever. I knew I needed to create an asset, and I knew I loved coffee, and it was my dream to have a coffee house. So um, I at first I played pretend, because I I just didn't totally believe in myself because I didn't have all those small victories
Yeah.
that of course I have now.
Yeah.
So I saw a sign on the door and I called the number and I met with them almost like a game,
Oh, wow.
and just said, "Hey, yeah, I want to open up a coffee roasting company here." And they said, "Oh, that'd be perfect." And I said, "Okay, well, I have to put a hole in your wall." And they said, "No, no problem." And I said, "Okay, well, I have to do this." And they said, "No problem, we'll remodel it for you." And so it was like all these series of yeses when I was still kind of just playing imagination, again, that child in drag.
Yeah.
And they said yes. So then I had to find a coffee roaster, the actual machine. So I called a company and I said, this is what I'd like. And they're like, yeah, we can do that for you. We can build it for you. And I said, okay. And it just literally, it was just, everyone was saying yes. And I kind of, just because of how I was just waiting for that person to say no.
Oh.
And pop the bubble and be like, okay, cool. It was a good fantasy, but I'm still a carpenter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And nobody did. So ultimately I had to be the one to say yes and to say that it's real. And every dime that I had, I put into that first roaster payment was $9,000.
Oh.
And again, I was a guy who didn't have a lot of experience with money. This was the most successful year as a carpenter so when I sent that check, and that was 1/3 of the total cost, it was kind of like, then I had skin in the game, as they say, right? So then I had some money on the table, and I was financially invested as well as emotionally invested. And then I went to work, and every time I had I had something that needed, then I had another $8,000 payment for payment number 2 out of 3. I came up with it, and I came up with all these creative ways to generate this revenue, to open up this business on a shoestring. And literally every dime that I had, my wife invested in it. At the time, she was my girlfriend, so she was taking a huge gamble on me.
Yeah.
And then I found a series of other creative ways to fund the business too, which I was really proud of, which I hadn't seen before. I did not do a GoFundMe.
Okay.
I think that's kind of, I think that lacks creativity.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But in hindsight, I'm thinking, well, maybe I should have. But I would never do a GoFundMe as a successful business. Sure. I think that's kind of smells desperate. And right. So you want to find ways to create value, not ask people to give you something.
Yeah.
And so that's right. So short story long, I opened up when I made that phone call to investigate the space, 3 months later, the doors were open. 3 months. And I opened the doors before I was able to set up my roaster. So those first couple weeks, I was experimenting with the brewing equipment with other people's coffee.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a brand. I had a trademark.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was going to be called Black and Brass because that's the machine that I ordered.
Yeah.
And when I asked him on the phone, I said, can I have the machine be Black and Brass? Boom. That was the first time I said the name out loud, and it immediately clicked in my head.
Nice.
And so Black and Brass became the name, and Black and Brass is the roaster. And now we have 2 roasters that are black, and they have a brass face.
Great.
And so that's kind of the kind of drawn out, boring version.
No.
Yeah, but I, it starts with saying yes, and taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And trying something.
Right.
And that made all the difference. And that original brick and mortar we still have. And of course now we're working on locations number 4, 5, and 6. And it's just so crazy. It's not even 5 years ago that was going on. In fact, it'll be 5 years ago in March that I made that phone call.
Wow, that's what is that quote that they say? The quote they always say is like, "Fake it till you make it," like that kind of deal.
Yeah, it was totally. Although, I mean, but it was I was never dishonest. I was playing a game.
Yeah.
And I'm still playing a game. And that's the thing. Like I began to realize as I began to play.
Yeah.
I realized that I could set the rules, but more importantly, I could decide how I win. And by being able to say like, okay, this is how I win the game that is called Black and Brass, then I can work my way backward from the moment that I'm victorious
Mhm.
all the way back to the moment that I started,
Mhm.
and see almost two-dimensionally each step that I need to take in order to reach that goal.
Mhm.
In order to win the game that I've created. And that does two things. It gives you a clear focus
Yeah.
and intention that you can actually work towards and succeed at. But it also gives you empowerment.
Yeah.
It gives you freedom. It gives you context to keep things in perspective, that, you know, even though your website is down on a day when you're going to be exposed to millions of people, well, it's part of the game.
Yes.
You know, and you drew a card, and now you got to roll a couple dice
Yeah.
and build it back up.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it makes it fun, even when it's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But the empowerment aspect of it
Yeah.
is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say fake it till you make it, yeah, you know, but play it
Yeah.
till you make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, have fun with it.
Sure.
Create your own world. Create your
Yeah.
own imaginary kingdom. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person who can decide what life you're going to live.
That's true. I love that. No, it's true. Yeah, because I mean, every choice you make, every decision you make, you're the one making that choice and decision. No one else is. So you could have easily been like, hey, you know what? I'll just keep being a carpenter. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
very well possible. Um, of course, I don't know much about carpenting, so I'm guessing it's a pretty sick gig, maybe.
It's I mean, it's great. You know, it's challenging.
Mhm.
It's a whole other business.
Right.
The problem with my company as a carpenter was that I was the only employee,
Uh-huh.
and I was always the only employee. So really, you can't build a business if you're the only cook in the kitchen.
Right.
And so a lot of people make the mistake where they're a great chef. They're a great chef, but they don't want to give anyone else the recipe.
Mm.
And so at the end of the day, that's okay. So you're going to be cooking great food, but if you're not in that kitchen, there's just no business.
Yeah.
It's not open. And so I always set my intention to teach my recipes to the team, so that I can help the team grow, and so that I can help the business grow.
And for you, when you were a carpenter, were there any, I guess, experience or knowledge that you were able to carry that over into the black and brass?
Oh,
I mean, since it's so different, you know?
Yes. And all of us, and that's the thing, your entire life, right?
Yeah.
So leads to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you leverage every skill you have,
Mm.
whatever that is: videography, photography, carpentry, painting, cooking, whatever it is, you leverage that skill and you put it into your business. So I'll give you an example. I was a carpenter. I built all the cabinets.
Oh, nice.
All the countertops. And I didn't do it. We were having this conversation, I didn't do it to save money.
Yeah.
I did it because that was the skill that I was able to use to help create this business. I was an actor. I loved improv. I loved acting. I use improv on a daily basis, to the skills that I learned from improv to connect with people, in this podcast, when we're filming on HDTV.
Right.
These skills I leverage into my business. You might be great at numbers. You might be, so whatever it is, you use it. And that's another takeaway to these, I guess, this overarching conversation of small victories.
Yes.
Everyone just expects you to have money, that you need money to build a business, or you need talent to build a business. But the reality is, every step you've taken that's led to this moment is it's almost like your dharma, or your call it fate, call it destiny. But every skill has led to this point, and now you are fully equipped to use those tools in your toolbox, figuratively and literally, to build the game of your dreams.
Oh wow, I like that. I like that. It's almost like off. You feel like your link or dharma is kind of like okay, black and brass is kind of the route.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I
Okay.
I can't tell you. I mean, I can't tell you how many days that I was lost, confused, disappointed in
Mhm.
myself. You know, failure to launch,
Yeah.
um, failure to have a clear career.
Mhm.
And now what I realize is I was on that path. I just didn't know it because I didn't understand how I was going to be able to use all these random skills that I had developed over my lifetime
Yeah.
to create a real asset that would be recognized on a national scale.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. I love that. So I got a couple more questions before we wrap it up. So number one, so now what is your daily morning routine like?
Well, I wake up with my daughter every day
Oh,
now,
great.
so I get to um, be 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 there with her every morning. She's 1.5. Um, so usually typically I wake up, I have my coffee, I have my black and brass coffee,
Ah,
and I do my social media thing.
okay.
So I'm checking Instagram, Facebook, coordinating with the team, making sure they're all where they need to be, and checking my emails. Um, and then by the time I'm about finished with that, my daughter wakes up, so I get to spend some cuddly moments with her, and then it's off to the races.
Oh, great.
Then my day starts. Yeah,
Oh, great.
or my you know, yeah, the meat of my day.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. And follow-up question is that your coffee, well, because I did browse on your website when it was still working, I guess. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
working
yeah.
anymore now. Um, your coffee, is it just beans that you're selling, or you're also selling like that kind of like the grounded up um coffee, I guess.
Yeah. So we roast. So we are a brand of
Okay.
coffee. So
Okay.
so like you have Folgers coffee,
Oh,
you
great.
have Starbucks coffee.
Okay.
We have black and brass coffee, and that's on shelves in supermarkets. That's on it's cafes use it. So we wholesale it to restaurants, resorts, other businesses, cafes, diners. Um, so we also sell that coffee on the shelf, and then we also have a specialty drink espresso bar.
Oh,
So we take all of we create our own espresso blend, and we create lattes, macchiatos, cappuccinos, all that kind of stuff. So what makes us different is that the quality of our coffee is superior, and we roast it fresh. So you know who roasted it, when it was roasted, and where it was roasted as you're drinking that shot, that latte, that cup of coffee. And we used to do that we still do it on site in the one cafe. So
mhm.
you can go in and you can watch the coffee being roasted.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we travel to the other countries of origin. We've been to 4 countries where we've seen the farmers, we've seen how the coffee's grown, how it's processed, how it's milled. Um, so we were kind of two businesses in one. We're the roasting company at our core is what we do. We take raw beans, we put them in an oven, we roast them to our specifications, and we create coffee. And then the second part of that business is the specialty drink and espresso bar, where
For
you
sure.
can come in and taste the product itself.
Okay, okay. And then are you wholesaling it to all the major stores like what, like Walmart, Target, or specific stores?
Specific stores, although not, I wouldn't mind it.
You would invite well.
Well, Walmart, if you're listening.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we've got mostly locally grocery stores, and then we'll be hitting the bigger markets as we, you know, basically my objective this year is to fly all around the country to the
Okay.
different boards and speak to them and show them who we are, what we do, and how we can create value for them.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we're going with that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, the only reason I'm asking is because I do want to try out some black and brass coffee. So I was gonna see if I can walk into a store and buy some because I
Oh
don't know which grocery
yeah,
store that you
nice.
Yeah, I don't know which grocery store you guys sell it at. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
it's on the east, so we're not
Oh,
in any grocery stores out west yet.
oh,
but we'll be working on that for
you're
sure.
working on it. Okay, okay, great.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
that's fine. I can probably buy online on the
yeah,
website. Yeah, yeah. So it's not
yeah,
big.
totally.
Cool, cool, cool. Um, so last question before we wrap up is, so you said I don't know if you're finished filming HGTV yet, or you're still currently filming
Mhm.
it right now.
It's filmed and it's airing tonight.
Airing tonight. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
time tonight?
So 8 o'clock Eastern. I think it's five p.m. Pacific.
Okay,
It's HGTV.
okay.
If you don't have HDTV, you can stream on Discovery Plus and Amazon Prime, I believe.
Okay, great.
And yeah, and so we just a representative from Discovery Channel reached out to us,
Great.
and we said yes, and the rest is history.
Oh, great.
So
That's
so
that's
yeah, that's
that's
super
awesome.
exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll try to keep an eye out too. So see if I can if it's on Amazon Prime, I'll see if I can watch it on Amazon Prime.
Cool, cool. So then it would air.
Yeah.
There would be a delay, so it might be tomorrow or
Oh, really?
three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it's streaming on HGTV at 8 Eastern, but then I think for like Discovery and such, it'll be coming out at like 3 a.m. So,
Oh,
so you'll probably catch it tomorrow.
oh, that's weird. It's like a next day. Oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
Well, I think they do that so that they want to capture all the live
Yeah.
audience, and then if but
Oh, I see. I see what you mean.
it's like
Cool,
a
cool.
double dipping, I guess.
Double day.
We'll
Okay.
get you here and we'll get you here.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I know I was gonna say I'm gonna wrap it up, but the final question now before we do wrap. Um, so it is 2021. We all made it through 2020.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in 2021?
So, 2021, I'm looking forward to consolidating our roasting facility.
Okay.
So we're going to be investing in a brand new roastery where we have all our machines, all our team under one roof. That's really huge. I'm looking forward to um, leveling up on the sales of the company from going from a more regional type of a local wholesale to a more national type of wholesale. That's really huge this year, and of course, I'm really excited to have more opportunities to speak, especially with the television show coming out tonight. I'm looking forward to really broadcasting Black and Brass in all of its forms
Yeah,
on a social media and marketing level.
absolutely.
These are the things. On a personal level, I'm really looking forward I'm really looking forward to the technological changes that are coming this year. I think there are so many interesting things that are coming down the pipeline, and I think that whether we know it yet or not, COVID was a catalyst for a new type of culture.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe maybe we haven't seen a cultural shift like this since the '60s. But this isn't born out of what we want or how we identify ourselves as much as what we need to do to move forward to continue to be a social species. And I think there's a lot of cool technologies that are going to come out that are going to help that. And I think there's a lot of minds that are really going to blossom in, I think of it like a forest fire.
Mhm.
And it's terrifying and catastrophic and destructive, but from the forest fire, sunlight hits the bottom of the floor, nutrients are introduced, and I think there's a whole slew of young entrepreneurs who are going to blossom in 2021, and I'm really excited to see what new forms old paradigms bloom into. Like, how are we going to experience theaters? How are we going to experience movies? How are we going to experience dancing? These things aren't going to go away, but they're going to be re-evaluated and recreated in a way that's really winning and unique. And I'm excited about that.
That is a great way to end this. Fantastic, very lovely. Yeah, so I'd love to have you on longer, Travis, but you're busy, you got a business to run.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely have a part 2. And we'll dive deeper next time. So, and for everyone who's listening, yes, please do support Black and Brass Coffee. I will post their website and all that on the description, because I'm planning to actually buy some today, once I'm guessing the website is up and running now, possibly.
Give it a couple. It should be either between probably in the next couple hours, it'll be up.
Okay,
Fingers
cool.
crossed.
Okay, great. Yeah.
It's blackandbrasscoffee.com.
Brassandcoffee.com. Okay, yeah. So I'll post all the information and anything else today we've talked about, just for people who are interested, curious. And then we'll be back next week again. So please, everyone, stay tuned. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.